We're so afraid of being ourselves, afraid of judgment, afraid of rejection. We've perfected our performance for decades, subtly evolving in any circumstance to try and be what we assume others want, expect, or need. But at what cost? The loss of genuine relationships, connection, and opportunity to be seen truly and fully. The loss of self-esteem and confidence as you reinforce the performance as ideal. Being authentic is crucial for building genuine connections and earning the trust of others. When you hide your true self, you deprive the world of your unique contributions and insights. Embracing authenticity is essential for personal and professional growth. So let's talk about how we can do that in our lives and bring you that sense of connection and fulfillment within. Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Kira Wackett. Thanks for joining me for another video as we work to empower and equip you with the confidence and skills to write your own story so that you can live your life on purpose. Today, we're talking about the power of authenticity. So why does being authentic matter? Years ago, when I was giving a presentation on self-branding, an attendee asked me about the true detriment of not living authentically, besides not being happy. They noted that happiness doesn't seem like it should really be the goal since it's often fleeting, and not everyone wants to strive for that. Now, initially, I was not prepared to answer this question, so I, did that thing where you turn it over to the audience, giving them time to reflect while I gathered my thoughts. But as I listened to the group's reflections, I kept coming back to this idea of shame. Not living authentically simply fuels shame. Being authentic doesn't guarantee happiness, absolutely. Striving for happiness is like trying to blow the perfect bubble. It's eventually going to burst. Happiness, like all emotions, is transient and experienced like waves in the ocean, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but never permanent. The beauty of life is in the variety of emotions that we endure and thrive within. But that still leads us back to this question: why does being authentic matter? So for those unfamiliar with the concept of shame, it differs from guilt in many ways, but the really kind of basic idea is that guilt means I did something bad. Shame, I am bad. Shame creates urgency to be better, to belong. It exploits our deepest beliefs and values, pushing us to be someone else, someone better and more deserving. So how do I connect this to authenticity? See, shame cannot celebrate uniqueness. It demands conformity, making you a performer, hoping to be acceptable. Shame makes you question your choices and turns mistakes into failures, defining your character by those negatives. So the question becomes, what would happen if people knew the real me? And these what ifs fuel shame, whispering that revealing your true self will make others see you as worthless. This fear makes you hide, pretend, and stay in your comfort zone, where things are predictably bad, but familiar. The threat of revealing your authentic self can feel so dangerous that you shrink your bubble every day. But if authenticity is here, does this performance actually work? Well, yeah, temporarily. Many of us conformed at some point to fit in during school, feeling mortified when we stood out. I wore clothes from a pretentious store, pretended not to be hungry to avoid the shame about having free lunch, and followed a safer career path. But I never felt at ease or secure. I operated from external motivations, and shame stripped me of my ability to assert my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This got me into trouble all the time. I was afraid of letting teachers down, so during the National Honor Society induction, I actually invited multiple teachers because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want to hurt my friend Colin's feelings for prom, so I said yes to going with him rather than going with my boyfriend. And I got 4 Aladdin DVDs the year it was re-released because everyone bought it for me knowing it was my favorite. And I didn't have the heart to tell them that I had already gotten it from someone else, so I just kept all of them. Now, these little things seem small, albeit dumb, but they add up. These little ways of performing added up to a point where I made big choices that were guided by shame too. I took jobs I didn't want, hung out with unkind friends, and didn't assert opinions in my relationships out of fear. I was surrounded by superficial connections, motivated by shame, feeling more alone than ever, questioning what it meant to be myself. So let's come back to that question again. Does not being authentic or being guided by shame work? No. Choosing shame and conformity over authenticity led me to feel nothing because I was so far from my true self. I became curious about letting go of these pressures and wondered what it would feel like to be me. I read The Gifts of Perfection by Brené Brown right around that time, learning how shame keeps us striving for an unreachable reality. I started to meditate on authenticity and took small steps towards being my true self. Now, don't get me wrong, it was not a magical flurry of rainbows and unicorns, and suddenly my life was amazing. The journey to even accepting the tiny movements towards being authentic took a lot of time. Baby steps, or honestly, baby shuffles, were the theme of my journey. I started to think about the possibility of being truly Kira. I started small with internal changes. I told the truth in my head. I got clear on my opinions and values, tested them with close people, and learned to set boundaries and say no. I learned very quickly that not everyone would like Kira, and even if they did, would have a hard time adjusting to this version of me, as they'd come to count on the other one. But that isn't mine to hold or to use as the compass for how I show up in my life. Now, have I figured this all out? Absolutely not. This journey is lifelong. I'm learning new things about myself every day and have to also create space to share and exist within those truths in my own time. Part of living authentically is also about honoring where you are and finding the balance of pushing yourself forward and trusting your pace. Shame still creeps in. It leads me to act in ways that sacrifice my power. And I'm aware that that's normal. That just makes me human. It's an ebb and flow kind of process. Am I happy all the time? No. As I said, it comes in waves. Do I feel better about myself? Yeah. Have I had loss? Disappointed people? Yep. And I have to remind myself that that's not about me. That just means who I am, and either who they are or who they're looking for doesn't match. And that's okay. So let's talk about you. Why should you do this? Why should you make the change to live more authentically? Because life has to be better than predictable crappiness. You deserve to feel vulnerable and assert yourself without doubting your worth. Being authentic means showing up daily and building a relationship with yourself, the one person who will be with you your entire life. Without that, a lifetime of distress, disconnection, and shackles awaits. So I'm inviting you now to take your turn to choose authenticity. Head to the comments and share one thing about yourself, something that makes you you, or a part of the performance that you're going to give up to take that next step. And if you found today's episode valuable and insightful, I encourage you to hit that thumbs up, click subscribe, and of course, share this episode with someone you think could benefit from hearing it, or to whom you want to give the invitation to show their true self as well. If you're ready to take that next step in your own shame resilience journey, be sure to click the link in the show notes to download my free handout, 5 things shame resilient people do every day, and 3 things they don't. And if you're looking for more ways to connect, you'll also find links to my website, podcast, and even a link to set up a discovery call to go over any questions that you have about programs, how we could work together, or next steps in your shame resilience journey. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Remember, you have the right to author your own story. So let's go get that pen back. I'll see you next time.